What's up, guys? It's Wednesday. It's a snow day, but as you can see, I came to the classroom. I won't be here all day, and because of the uncertainty of the weather and because of the uncertainty of my internet at home, I'm not going to do live videos. I'm going to post them recorded, and you can watch them whenever you like. Let's get into our thing for the day. Quick recap. Last quarter we made Pong, and then we said let's turn it into a totally new game with the same objects. If you have your paddle on the side and a ball, maybe you move it to the bottom and turn it into Breakout, where your paddle's now on the bottom and it bounces a similar way and hits bricks on top. Or maybe you make it Space Invaders, where your paddle, now it's a ship, and your ball, now it's a laser, goes and hits enemies. Okay, or maybe like in this example that I've used a few times, you make it a platformer where your paddle is now stationary and your guy is now jumping. Lots of possibilities, and we've done a couple steps. We did our objects, we did movement, and then we did the hard part, collision. Next step that I want to talk about today is spawning and despawning, because you've got your objects on screen, but they probably don't stay forever. Some of them might leave, and other new ones might appear. Okay, for example, here's one. If you have a platformer, you might jump, and then die, fall in a hole. Or you might walk off screen and die. And so you're going to reappear. This is the easiest form, because it's not really destroying any objects or creating new ones, it's just moving the same one. Okay, so if I die in most platformers, especially modern ones like Super Meat Boy or Celeste, you just instantly restart. And the music doesn't stop, the camera doesn't have to move, it's just boom, right there. So how do we do that? Well, first I added a hole in the floor with just 2 rectangles instead of 1, and picked some coordinates that had space in between. Nothing crazy there. Then I added a function to the guy, and remember the guy is just the ball from Pong. A lot of this code is the same as it was in there, but modified. I added a function called die, and it gets called up in the update, which is what happens every frame. It checks if you fall, it checks if you walk, it checks if you jump, etc., etc. And now it has one more. Unfortunately, I ruined my pattern. I had all these 4 letters, and then I put a 3, so I got to figure out a synonym for die. Hopefully we can find one. Die says if you're off screen, specifically if you're below the screen, then we're going to move your guy to where it started, right here. I had it start in the air initially as a way to test the gravity. Why not? It looks cool, And then it zeroes out the acceleration and velocity, because if it didn't, they would stay. If you fell off like that, you'd probably have a very high speed, because you'd be falling for several frames, and then if you reappeared here, you'd fall super quick. That's fine, it would just hit the platform anyway, but you want to, start fresh with nothing going on, and you'll fall anyway due to the gravity that pops up a second later. So this stuff is not great starting in this point, since it's the same as the beginning. Now that we're using it multiple times, we should probably name it and label it and turn it into its own little module, like we run that spawn function at the beginning, and we also run that spawn function in here. Whatever, we'll change that later, it's fine. And then we'll also add more conditions. So if you fall off, then you die, but also if you hit an enemy, if you hit a spike, if a laser touches you, etc., we can add those where it's like if this or that or that or that gets the same result. Now, when I did that initially, and you would fall off and reappear, it was too fast. It would happen before you even noticed what happened. And so the player would be a little confused, like, hey, what was this? Why am I over here? So I added a delay, which is a half second, so that you can realize, oh, I fell off. Now I'm going to try again. If we get better and we add beauty and an illustration and color, we'll also probably add a little animation to this where Sonic has the coins pop out, or Mario, when he lands on the lava, will like bounce and smoke comes out of his butt. The visual cues are important because, like I said, you want the player to know what's going on rather than just reappearing and not knowing why. So we'll get there, and also maybe add a little pop when you start again. I always think of Celeste, which has a great memorable little doo-doo-doo, and you die a lot in that game, so you see it a lot. But anyway, that's the simple version. If you're going to do spawning and despawning, the easiest way is to not do it at all, not really destroy objects or create them, just move them around. Okay, and this is very useful for the player character. If you're doing Space Invaders and your guy gets hit, you probably just display you died, like a Dark Souls you died, or have your life counter tick down. But then you just reappear and it's the same object. Nothing new. However, this can also be used for other things, like the enemies. If you shoot one of the enemies in Space Invaders, you might just bring them in from the top like it's a new guy. If you want to really get into the illusion and make it seem like a new guy, maybe you change the color so that it's not it doesn't seem like visually it just moved. It seems like, oh, here's a new replacement coming in. That's what you want to do if you can, because it's so easy and simple and doesn't require any new stuff. Okay, but maybe that's not going to work for your situation. Maybe you're doing Space Invaders and you want to whittle down the enemies you shoot, and now there's 4 instead of 5, and now there's 3, and now there's 2, and you don't want to have them reappear right away. Or maybe you did a pool game where you hit the ball and they bounce, and then some of them go in a pocket. You don't want them to reappear. You want to have them stay in the pocket. So the next step is to remove these objects, but not really destroy them. You're still keeping track of who's who and who's where. Look at that, there's 2 cursors on the screen because of the weird little reset it did. So think of it this way. If you have chess and you take a piece in chess and it dies, it gets set aside, but it might get used again, right? Because in chess, if you get to the end, you can upgrade your guy. And so you need to have the ones set aside still available. You don't like throw them in the trash when they get taken. That's how you want to think of this type of I don't know, I can't think of a word. You will keep track of the ones that are dead. So in Space Invaders, for example, you might have some enemies that die and they get put into a group of like the ones that are not on the board, the ones that are backstage, like actors in a play who are ready to come on and do another part. Or in a card game, if you remove a card from the board but it might come back, it's in the discard pile or whatever. That's kind of what we're thinking of. We've already used the idea of lists, of grouping things, and you can see one right here from the guy in the platformer is checking, am I hitting any of the platforms? okay? And instead of asking each one at a time, it just asks the list, hey, am I landing on any of you guys? And then it gets back a yes or no. So that was very helpful to put our stuff in a list. And we're going to do the same thing for the ones backstage, the ones who are in that pool ready to be drawn from when we need a new guy. So if you have a list of enemies and Space Invaders and one dies, you take it out of that list, put it on the other list, and then when you need a new one, you go take it out of that, put it in the new one, etc. So this video, I don't want to make it too long by showing that. I'll show that next class, but that's the idea. We're starting with the easy stuff, and if we can't do that, if it doesn't work for our situation, then we'll go to one step more, and if that doesn't work, then we'll go to one step more. But we don't want to like start with something crazy if we don't have to. So that's your next assignment. Once you get the collision pretty solid, you get to the idea of spawning and despawning. Whenever your guy falls off or gets hit or goes into a hole, then you need to take it off screen, but keep it, keep it ready, like a chess piece off the board, or a card in the discard pile, or an actor. When I took an English class to Macbeth, we saw some actors play the witches at the beginning, but if they only did that, they would have like an hour before the next scene. So the people who played the witches came right back on the next scene to be soldiers or, assistants or whatever. And they can do that. We can do that too with our Space Invaders. Enemies might disappear and then come back with a new color and playing the same role. And nobody knows because they have a mask on, but it's the same guy, okay? That's the plan. If you want to do the similar thing to what I have, if it works for you, that's great. If you have some other idea, let me know. But we're trying to keep it simple. All I did was add one function to this, and now it has a new thing of the death and respawn. So let me know how it goes, and I'll see you next time.